It's time to take the good with the bad. Love it or hate it on Asteroid G. You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me, as always, is
Jesse Eisenberg's ruined career. Josh Schaefer.
and he's not wrong.
Queenie.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Okay, that is entirely true. Jesse Eisenberg's career took a huge hit after this movie, because we are talking about Batman v Superman, a new special we're going to start doing regularly called Love It or Hate It. In this podcast, we are going to be taking on a movie people either really enjoy that one of us wants to argue against, or a movie that people generally hate and one of us will be arguing for it. And unfortunately, this time around, I drew the short straw, and I get to try and argue how Batman v Superman is a good movie.
You have your work cut out for you.
I know, if you couldn't tell, I don't agree with this in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to try and make the argument for this regardless.
Well, you know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate on both sides. So I'll give you what I do like about it and what I really don't like about it.
Before we get into it, what is everyone's thought on this movie without trying to varnish it in any way, shape, or form?
It was an affront to mankind.
Okay, Queen Bee?
It was a okay first impression of a long questioned how would it happen via comic book storyline. So
you're trying to be really nice about it. What was your gut takeaway from it, though?
I actually didn't have a problem with it. I'll be honest with you, because I don't watch movies the way that you and Josh watch movies.
So why the hell am I arguing for why it's a good movie? This doesn't seem fair.
You got voluntold.
Damn it.
Weird, man. I'll do it. I'll say
no, it's
why
fine.
I liked
It's
it.
fine. This is going to be an interesting thought, because I'm not quite as strong against the movie as Josh is. There are moments of it that I kind of enjoy, but I will agree that it is a pretty assy movie that, as the second film in a burgeoning cinematic universe, which is what the DCEU was supposed to be, this movie is terrible on all fronts and really set that whole cinematic universe off on the wrong foot, start to finish.
Do you know what my favorite part of the movie was? That that was okay, I guess, but it was a complete waste of 3 hours and 3 minutes of my life.
Well, I mean, you've wasted way more time on your ex-girlfriend, so.
Anyway. You're not wrong. I mean, it was longer than 3 hours.
I mean, in comparison,
I don't think it's an affront to all movies. What I really liked about it, okay, and I can see as I look at the critics. Wow, a lot of 1.5 stars.
Oh yeah.
Even some that say I don't even want to give a star.
Yeah.
But here's something that somebody said on the Rotten Tomatoes list. Okay, men are still good. We fight, we kill, we betray one another, but we can rebuild. That's basically what they got from this film. So when you look at it that way, okay. I think that what people liked about it is that it was different. Not that it was good by any means, but it was different. So another 5-star, fresh, okay. A movie you have to see, very good shots in the genre of the superheroes, 5-star.
Okay, I will agree. I feel like this is a movie you have to see, so you know how not to ever do a movie like this again.
Mm-hmm.
It is a warning shot across the bow of all of Hollywood. Please never make this movie again.
It wasn't even. It was all direction and script, because I think Ben Affleck did a pretty decent job as Bruce Wayne and Batman. His suit was awful. Whoever designed that costume should be shot.
So let's before we get too deep into this, let's cover what basically this movie is. It is the sequel, essentially, to Man of Steel that came out just a couple or 3 years earlier. And Man of Steel did a very weird, dark reimagining of Superman, as directed by Zack. I don't know how to direct action in any way, shape, or form except in slow-mo. Snyder. And I don't hate Man of Steel for what it is. It's not the Superman movie I'm looking for necessarily, but from a certain angle, I can kind of see it as a compelling movie. And the whole goal was basically to try and do a dark grounded reimagining of Superman in the way that Christopher Nolan did for Batman Begins and then its 2 sequels that at times were really good and then fell off into stupidity. And I mean, from that angle, hold on, from that angle, Man of Steel matches it perfectly because it starts off kind of compelling and then falls off into stupidity. You were going to say.
I think the issue was that Superman is not a dark character, and
he's hope.
He's supposed to be the hope of the world and its last savior, yada yada yada, and so like right out of the gate, it was poorly conceived.
Yeah, it's the thing of when you think of Superman, you think of 3 adjectives: truth, justice, or maybe nouns: truth, justice, and the American way. Although I would swap out American way at this point because he's kind of more of a global hero now, and maybe say that it's like hope at this point, or the promise of a better tomorrow. So truth, justice, and hope are really what Superman is all about. And you didn't really get much of that from Zack Snyder's movie. You got the idea that Zack Snyder was building towards it and might eventually get there in a different movie, but like he was much more interested in treating Superman as like this Christ figure god than he was about actually showing Superman is set up as an ideal. Like the whole of what you expect from Superman was much better conveyed by Wonder Woman in Wonder Woman. She is basically hope for like the 19 teens, 1920s, like World War I era that she was set in. And she has, even despite the darker colors of all of it, she is a very hopeful character in that movie. And Superman was just lacking that.
Yeah.
Well, I have said this many times. I did not like the actor who plays him again.
Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill, yeah.
Henry Cavill. I don't like Henry Cavill in pretty much anything except Witcher. Now.
Oh, come on. Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, he was awesome in that.
He was okay in that.
And
in Mission Impossible?
Yeah, where he reloads his arms while he's fighting? Come on.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't like him as Superman, and I really haven't liked him in anything since Witcher. Now, I love Witcher.
Yes.
So, now that I love him in a part, it's entirely possible that if I go back and watch those things that I really didn't like him in, I may start to like him. And I think the reason I didn't like his acting was because the first thing I saw him in was
Man of Steel.
Batman versus Man of Steel. Yes.
Okay. Well, and here's the thing. I don't blame Henry Cavill for his performance in either of those 2 movies.
And not at all.
Sooner or later, we're going to actually get around to the love it or hate it part of this, but I think we're just having fun shitting on this movie right now. The fact of the matter is that I blame Zack Snyder start to finish because he's a shitty director, and what he wanted was a very reserved Superman, which is not what he's supposed to be. There were moments where he got to act very charismatic and big smile and kind of be the Superman you want him to. And you could tell that was the actor fighting against the material and not like the actor himself. Like it's Henry Cavill knew what he wanted to do and he was hobbled by who he was paired with, basically.
Yeah, I'm saddened because my favorite Superman since Christopher Reeve was Brandon Routh.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's my favorite Superman so far, and he kept just getting shitty scripts for his Superman, but he's still my favorite.
He is. I mean, like the Arrowverse crossover that featured him in that role again might not have been the best, but damn, he sold the hell out of that material.
He really did. He's such a good actor. So I love him as Superman. He would be my preferred Superman. So if they were to remake a B versus S Dawn of Justice or whatever, if they were going to remake it, consider Brandon Routh, please, because he's really good.
His casting was so perfect. Like, you watch him as the Atom on the Arrowverse, or basically in anything else he's been in, and he is just so bright and pure. You get the feeling that the actor himself is Superman. In kind of the same way that Chris Evans is Captain America. Like, you couldn't think of a better person to play Superman than Brandon Routh. He is just so purely Superman.
You're right, and that's what I liked about him. But I can tell you that a lot of the positive critique on this movie, which is we're trying to find the love it angle for a movie that pretty much everybody hated.
Reviles,
yes. I see it's great fantasy entertainment. Okay, we can see that you were drinking when Batman versus Superman is a great film and a spectacle that marks a new era of for superheroes. I think he's one I like. Keep your expectations well in check, and you might actually find yourself enjoying the movie. So, with that, keep your expectations in check. So, for those people who don't actually read comic books and don't know the background between Batman and Superman and don't really know who they are, people who are new might actually enjoy this movie.
Okay.
Because it does have a lot of good action scenes. That is the positive. The action in the movie is pretty good.
Let's do the love it part of this, which is so I'm arguing for this. And the movie itself is about Superman, Clark Kent, dealing with a renegade vigilante who's terrorizing Gotham, the right thing for the wrong reasons, essentially. And that would be Batman, who years before apparently lost Robin to the Joker. That's implied, but the props and so forth are there. And he has been operating from the looks of it for a good 15, 20 years, because he's battle damaged, he's gray at the temples. He's been doing this job for so long that, just the name of him alone, it strikes terror into the hearts of criminals everywhere. So it's a young Superman who's only been working for like a year or so versus a very aged and haggard Batman. And Superman, despite the fact that we haven't seen him doing anything truth, justice, or hope related in the movies, feels that Batman is taking the wrong perspective on things, and he needs to stop being the dark vigilante that he is and be more like Superman. That's the argument Superman makes. Didn't
Superman kill somebody in his movie? Oh, my bad.
While that's going on, we also have Lex Luthor being Lex Luthor. I will save that critique for him, for Josh to make, because Josh is going to be on the hated side. But we have Lex Luthor, who gets the body of the evil alien that Superman has killed in the previous movie, and decides to use it while, pitting Superman and Batman against each other, so hopefully they kill each other, although it's never explained why he really has a hate boner on for Batman. But he decides to then use the evil Kryptonian's corpse to make a super killing machine that isn't killed Doomsday, but if you read comics, is basically Doomsday. And then we get the whole big climactic fight between Superman and Wonder Woman, who shows up for almost no reason, and Batman against Doomsday, and scene and movie. Yay, but kind of sad because Superman's dead, but he'll be back. So that's the overview of the movie. So, for me, arguing on the side of, yay, this movie is good. First of all, it continues Superman's arc from the previous movie, which, if you did like it, was probably a bonus to you. And in the process of that, it also gives us more of Lois Lane from What's-Her-Face, who I actually think, despite not being a brunette, did a really good job as Lois Lane.
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams, thank you. She's a fantastic actress, as proven by The Arrival, which she is phenomenal in. And her performance as Lois Lane, if nothing else, was really good.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. The only problem I have with Lois Lane is that she's not
a brunette. Yeah, which, I mean, she's a strong enough actress with enough awards under her belt, she could look at the producers and go, I'm not dyeing my hair and you can't fucking make me. And good for her.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, much better than the terrible dye job they gave to the actress in Superman Returns, which was just wretched, and they should have just left her alone, honestly. So, then we have a Batman who is, to its credit, not at all like the Batman we had just gotten in 3 Christopher Nolan movies. I think the effort was made to make him different, to model him more after the Batman of The Dark Knight Returns, who's dark and gritty and has no problem killing people, which is a very Frank Miller thing that I don't necessarily agree with. But I can see what they were going for with this movie. And that includes the Batman armor that he wears late that's obviously cribbed directly from that Frank Miller comic. They tried to also do a Lex Luthor who we hadn't seen before, which, to its credit, is still better than the Lex Luthor we got in Superman Returns, who's just got this crazy land scheme played by that creepy pedophile guy, Kevin Spacey. I mean, at this point, Singer? I do... Huh?
Bryan Singer?
Yeah, Bryan Singer directed with Kevin Spacey, so you got 2 evil, creepy dudes involved in that movie. And, I mean, his scheme at least makes more sense from a certain perspective than let's make a kryptonite-laden land that no one can live on and somehow I'm going to get to own it. I want to kill Superman. I'm a rich and powerful dude. Let's kill Superman. Kind of makes sense to me. And, I do really love Wonder Woman in this movie, despite her not having a whole lot to do, because Gal Gadot is great. So
She's awesome. Yeah.
She was the best part of the movie.
yeah, you take all of those elements together, and from the right perspective, I could view it as a good movie. I don't view it as a good movie, but I could view it. I could see why someone would see all of these elements there, not be a comic book fan, not be like a filmic critique person, a critic. There's words for me. Not be a critic like I am and be deeply involved in film theory. You could view all these things and be like, this was kind of a fun movie, blah blah blah. I think you're wrong, but there you go. That's the love it side of it. That's how I think people could view this movie. Now, on the hated side of it, this movie is garbage, and oh my god. Josh.
Yes.
Go on.
There's just parts that I liked,
Okay.
right? So
Yep.
I liked Gal Gadot, obviously.
Yes. Who's
She's-
fantastic, and I'm so glad she got
she
her
was-
own movie.
Yeah, me too, because that was amazing. That was about the only good thing to come out of this new DCU. I think the acting for the most part was pretty good, and like as much as I hated how they did Lex Luthor dirty, I think if Jesse Eisenberg was like the Riddler, I think it would have been
yeah.
it would have been a much more palatable villain.
Fuck yeah, his weird, nebbish, twitchy performance would have been fantastic as like a 10 years in the making kind of Riddler. Like he's been in Arkham a few times and battled the Bat as the Bat slowly went crazy. That would have been a fantastic Riddler.
Yeah, and I thought that the armor that they gave Batman was kind of meh. Like it just like I know where they were going with it because it looks kind of like you said, the one from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, kind of.
You know,
But-
I gotta admit, honestly, if you had someone go in there and digitally add the movie, and like every time he says his name or someone says the name to him, if you just changed Luthor to Nigma, and then you
Yeah.
like swapped out the Luthor logo for like an Edward Nigma logo on everything, that would honestly make for a much more compelling movie all around. Like I would suddenly go from hating the villain to actually kind of liking the villain.
Oh, exactly. And in my
Yeah.
head canon, that's what happened.
Yeah, no, that would be phenomenal. Like if you could just do that one swap and be like, okay, he's just the Riddler now, and then watch the movie as it is. His whole like weird plot to pit the two heroes to back and forth against each other, all the weird shit he does behind the scenes, the creepy like things he says to everyone, the his plan to resurrect something and pit it against the two heroes. Like none of that seems out of phase for Riddler.
No, and that's like what I thought the entire time. And because like there's some things that you just can't, that are so ingrained in society. Because like Superman is a character that if you go to like almost any country and find a random person, I bet you they'd be able to point out Superman. You know, like
Mhm.
like I'm talking like third world country
Yeah,
type
yeah.
stuff. Like he's
He's a
a
symbol.
global icon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know he's supposed to bring hope and happiness and things like that. So like he's like the light in the dark tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's why him and Batman kind of have like a yin and yang effect. Like
Mhm.
Batman was always on the dark side, and you know he was I guess more lawful good, where Superman is more chaotic good, I guess. But when you make them both dark, it doesn't really bring an interesting story, you know. And
Yeah.
and I didn't really get the fight between them. Like
It was
I
very
don't-
ham-fisted. All of that was
Yeah.
ham-fisted.
yeah, like
Okay, well, I'll explain it to you, Josh. Superman, or Batman, is convinced that Superman, being an alien from another planet, is bad for the Earth. That's
Because
where
other
it's
aliens
coming
were.
from.
which is Lex Luthor's entire thing, and like
Yeah,
Listen,
no,
I'm against Lex Luthor being in this film at all. He didn't have
Yeah.
to be there. There was no
No.
point to
No.
having Lex Luthor,
I mean,
or actually another villain
well,
in there. We didn't
if you
need a
need-
villain.
you need
Because
someone
it's
that they
Batman
can fight.
versus no, it's Batman versus Superman. They have enough to fight over without having an actual villain, and I think that's where Zack Snyder and the writers for this film made the mistake. There is enough animosity between both
Fair.
Superman, who's supposed to be the light, and Batman, who's supposed to be the dark. You have that tension between them already. Gal Gadot is the balancing act between the two, because she comes in and basically says, you guys need to get along. We're all on the same side.
Well,
And it's the bias that Batman has against aliens that is causing the problem. There was no need to have a villain because in that space, Batman was the villain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it. Like, I can see why they wanted Doomsday, and they found a very ham-fisted way to put Doomsday into the movie. But they wanted someone that the two of them could then, like, shake hands and then fight, Like, shake hands together, fight the villain, have someone to fight. Lex Luthor is kind of tangential to all that, and he's just kind of, like, the grease that causes all of this to happen. But, like having Doomsday in there is one thing. Now, if you just had it where Batman and Superman had, like, 3 or 4 big fights that led up to the final fight, and, like, as after they've had their huge fight and Superman is on the ground and Wonder Woman comes up and is like, no, you guys, we need to work together and stop fighting each other because who knows when the next threat comes out, and then Batman looks around and sees the devastation essentially he's caused, that might be a compelling ending. It might be a little too highbrow for Zack Snyder, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where the problem is.
Yes.
It's not, I don't necessarily think that it's the actors in this film who made the bad film. I think it's completely Zack Snyder, who should never be allowed to make movies ever. We have said this many times. He's just terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you straight up what happened when he was directing. He looked at the script, did a bump of coke, and said, "Let's make a movie." And then he just started filming stuff.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
Well, there's a lot of, like, talking about things that don't need to be in there. There's a lot of superfluous bullshit that just doesn't need to be in the movie. Like, the introductions of Cyborg and The Flash and Aquaman. Like, they're just kind of, like, tacked on in, like, webisodes that one of them decides to go watch for us in the middle of the movie for no reason. Like I think some of those sequences are kind of neat, but none of them were necessary. And at the same time, I really like Wonder Woman, and I think that her performance in the movie is fucking compelling as all shit. But at the same time, she's not really necessary to the movie. There's a lot of world building they do for future films, so they can have a Justice League, so they can have an Aquaman, so they can have a Wonder Woman. And
right, they could have also used the government because they had Holly Hunter there as the senator.
Yeah,
they could use the government as the villain too. They didn't. What I'm saying is that Jesse Eisenberg's character was not needed, but had they decided to make him Nigma instead of Lex Luthor, I agree with both of you that it would have been a far superior film.
It would have at least been a more interesting character for the whole thing. Plus, having Riddler behind the strings pulling not only Batman, but Superman, something you don't normally see him do, that would have been really interesting. And, like, would have elevated the character that's usually viewed somewhere between B and C list for Batman's rogues, up to, like, an A-list kind of, like, contender, which the comics have tried to argue lately he actually could be. He's like the Joker, but with brains.
Yeah.
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 But, I mean, like, the thing is that Marvel gave Warner Brothers a perfect roadmap on how to build a universe.
Yep.
And DC, or Warner Brothers, was just like, nah, we're going to go our own way. People really like dark shit, especially since everything in the world right now is pretty shitty. So let's just, have Zack Snyder direct a bunch of shit, even though none of his movies are really well acclaimed. And
the original plan was, after, like, Man of Steel came out, they were going to do a Man of Steel 2. That was the original plan for, like, all of a couple months. But then Man of Steel came out, and while it was hugely successful financially, it wasn't well loved. So I think DC and Warner Brothers kind of freaked out and said, oh god, there's not enough Batman in this movie, and everyone really just wants to see Batman. Let's put Batman in the Superman movie and just make it a Batman movie. And, like, it didn't work. Like, you didn't need a Batman in this movie, and if you were going to do a Batman in this movie, you needed to introduce Batman separately on his own. Maybe do the story where Batman's Robin gets killed by Joker. Like, that could have been a dark and interesting twist that would have helped to build up to this movie where Batman is evil and fighting against Superman. Like, there are things you could have done that would have made this a much more interesting movie, and the movie didn't do any of that.
No, and what kills me too is Warner Brothers and DC has an amazing animated universe.
Oh god, yeah.
Like, even the bad stuff is still pretty good. Like,
so much more compelling than this.
Yeah, and obviously you can do more with, like, a 6-season cartoon, but there's no reason to me that the Cyborg in the new Teen Titans is more compelling and thought-provoking than the one in Justice League.
You're 100% correct.
Like,
the only character out of this besides Wonder Woman that I really liked long term is I really love the Flash that shows up in Justice League, who's hinted at here. I think Ezra Miller.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ezra Miller. Yes.
Yeah, although he's had some personal drama that may or may not come back to bite him and get him kicked out of the role coming up.
what happened? I don't know.
Did you not hear about that? He got
No.
into a bar fight apparently sometime recently. I can't remember what country it was in, but a foreign country, Ireland or something, and like choked a woman out.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's not good. The full story has not come out again about what happened. Like, I think his people made a statement, and the people who are on the other side of the fight have, like, their own story they're coming out with. But there's a possibility he's not going to be the Flash anymore, which, on the one hand, if he really did choke a woman out, that's not so good. But at the same time, he was really good as the Flash. So,
yeah.
yeah. But, like it's the things we're not talking about that, like, Ben Affleck was good. Ben Affleck has already left the role after Justice League. Henry Cavill was fine. Henry Cavill has already left the role after Justice League. Like, you're sitting there going, the characters that we care about are basically Wonder Woman and the Flash at this point. And from the looks of it, the DC universe going forward is going to be all Wonder Woman all the time. And as a pilot episode for Wonder Woman, Batman v Superman sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I won't argue with you. And just to clarify, it wasn't Ireland, it was Iceland.
Okay, it was an I with a land
You
at the end.
were like, you were one letter off.
Yeah, it's fine. They're the same
Okay.
country, right?
No.
They're right next door.
And let's see. Took place around 6 p.m. on April 1st.
Oh, the fight?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a trendy fight incidents involving an actor. Yeah, but we don't know what. Okay, I'm not saying that you should choke women out as a practice. I definitely think that that's all bad.
I mean, unless they ask for it.
We don't know what.
And
led
I
to
don't
this.
mean she was. You should have seen what she was wearing. She was clearly asking for it. I mean, like, you're in the bedroom and she goes, "Please, I like to be choked." Maybe think about it and really talk with her about what she's asking for. But if that's what she wants, like, come to it as a reasonable solution and maybe don't choke her out all the way. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's fair.
basically what had happened in this situation, there was an altercation, a lot of fans, eager fans who were basically crowding him,
Yeah.
and they were quite pushy, and then things escalated. So it's entirely possible that this person who got choked out did something inappropriate before he even touched her.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, yeah. There's a lot
I
that's
think
not
I-
being said.
Wasn't there a video of that?
I
There
don't
is.
know.
There's
I
a
haven't
video
watched
of it
Okay.
on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw the video. I didn't put two and two together though.
Well, and
So,
I'm not going to like pass judgment either way at this point, because that's something for the studio to handle, and we'll just accept whatever their decision is at this point. Because like, even with the videos can be edited. You'd have to have like the whole like 15 minutes leading up to it to be able to get the whole story and everything else, and who's gonna bother recording all of that, So there's a lot that could go into this. I'll just say that the incident itself looks terrible. And if the Warner Brothers decides they don't want to use him anymore in the future, I can't really blame them for that.
Yeah.
that's
So,
unfortunate. I really like him as an actor. I think he's
Mhm.
amazing.
so.
But things happen.
Mhm.
I am glad that people don't judge me for things that have happened in my life.
Well, but you're not playing the Flash, so
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. So, but yeah, things I really like. Some things we haven't mentioned. Jeremy Irons is in this movie as Alfred. He was
his is a pretty good
wonderful.
Alfred. Yeah,
I honestly forgot he was in it.
I like Michael Caine's Alfred better, but I do think Jeremy
Yeah.
Irons did a pretty decent Alfred.
And we did talk about Lois Lane and Amy Adams. She was a great Lois Lane in this. Diane Lane, who never gets love. I think she played a great Martha Kent.
She's a very warm-hearted Martha.
Yes, but my favorite person in the entire movie is Gal Gadot, and it's not even about me. So, yeah, I would go there. I'd say Gal Gadot is probably the best part of this movie. So, again, leave your expectations low and enjoy Gal Gadot.
Which is what I did for Justice League. I left my expectations low for the next movie in the series, Justice League. And, I mean, I liked it for what it was, which is a very weirdly grafted together Zack Snyder plus Joss Whedon kind of movie. And I have my own issues with Joss Whedon as well for reasons. But, like, like, for what it was, Justice League is an actually oddly compelling little movie. It's not a great movie, but it is, with a low set of expectations, a good movie. And in that regard, I think Batman v Superman did a commendable job. It lowered expectations so much that, from a certain angle, or I guess the next movie in the series was Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad could be fun in certain respects, and then certainly expectations were lowered after both of those, so that Justice League could be thought of as a tolerably fun movie. But on its own, despite the fact that I'm arguing for the love it portion of it, I find myself struggling for the love it. I think this movie's ass.
I think for an attempt at a Superman versus Batman movie, it was an attempt.
It was an attempt. It was certainly an attempt. If you want a good Batman v Superman story and you don't want to have to read it, I would go honestly watch the I think it was from the second or third season of the cartoon show from like the mid '90s.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah,
yeah,
their version is brilliant.
Two of them battle each other while Joker and Lex Luthor are pulling the strings. Like, that one is fucking great. I love that one. This one, not so much. So, anyway, we got anything else?
I think we've covered the love it to hate it portion of this film.
All right. Well, in that case, then, I think we can probably let this one go. This has been Love It or Hate It from Not So Live from Asteroid G. I am Mike Finkelstein, certainly not a superhero, and don't ask me otherwise.
Josh Schaefer.
Queen Bee.
And we will see you next time.